Okay, welcome everybody to the January 19th, 2022 Police and Fire Commission meeting for the city of Fitchburg. Moving forward here, it's a call to order, and the first item on the agenda is actually welcoming a new member. Brian Russell is the latest member to the PFC, and he just started his term, and this is his first meeting. His expiration date on his term will actually be on the 2026 in 04/3. So, or 4/30, sorry. So welcome to the commission, and we look forward to working with you. You have anything you would like to say, or?
Not at this time.
Okay, very good. All right, moving on to the second item of business is approval of the minutes from December 15th, 2021. So did everybody on the commission have a chance to take a look at the minutes, and are there questions or concerns? Yeah,
I'll move to approve the minutes as proposed.
and do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Rosa. All in favor of approval of the minutes from December 15th, 2021? Raise your hand and say aye.
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 I think since you weren't at that actual meeting, that you probably shouldn't have approved those, but it's not a problem. So next item on the agenda is public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't see anybody on Zoom, nor do I see anybody in the room, so I don't think that we have any. Next order on the agenda, item on the agenda is the report from the police department. Chief?
Okay, you've been provided with a copy of the staffing report. In the last 24 hours, things changed. And I'll let you know, we are, positions filled, we're short one. We're gonna be short, that's a police officer position, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in closed session. We're also gonna have a police lieutenant who's going to be retiring February 1st, and we'll be discussing the processes moving forward on that piece. So we'll be down 52. As far as in-field training, we have 5 officers that are still in field training. They'll be completing their field training this month. And we have 3 officers that are at, 2 of the officers in the academy. So that'll give us a total of 7 unfilled positions for the future. And I think in 5 months, we'll be able to get those 3 officers, or 2 officers from from the academy into field training status. So that's what I have for our summary.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going through the demographics, and just to refresh my memory, I can see that there's only 8 females. Could you tell me what positions they are in, the 8 females you have in the department, if you have that available now?
For the sworn, all females are in the police officer position.
And also, if you can, tell me what the time that they have been as police officers, more or less. Is it all under 5 years? There's some above 5.
Yes, we have, let's see, out of those 8, there's 2 females on the day shift that have over 20 years, closer to 25 years, and they're going to be part of the 6 that are going to be available to retire. The other 4 are going to be, we're going to have 2 under 10 years, and that leaves us with 4. The other 4 would be under 4 years. Two of those females under 4 years that have probably less than 2 years come from other police departments. So one of the 2 that has approximately 1 year on has about 10 plus years of law enforcement experience. The other one comes with, I believe, at least 4 years law enforcement experience from her prior employment. And those are 2 of the ones that have the least or lesser of the time here on the department.
And if you can right now, or maybe later, Have any of these females expressed any desire to move to another promoted position that you're aware of?
That I'm aware of for today's meeting, I am not aware of it. We are going to have some processes that are coming up, and I'll be discussing some of those as we go through the agenda of the opportunities. I'll be able to give you real-time information as those processes open up.
Thank you.
I'm looking at the picture, but I don't know where, oh, there's the camera. So if I can see you, I'm looking at you here through the camera.
Okay, thanks.
Of the 6 that are set or at retirement age, one of those is one of the people that just issued their, I guess it's a question, but is one of those the person that just issued their retirement notice?
No.
Oh,
No, I mean, they're eligible. We have 6 eligible to retire.
yep.
Out of those 6 eligible to retire, one for sure has not, is eligible. She's discussing that she's looking at maybe in the future, but has not given a letter.
Okay.
Chief, we had started looking at the number of order-ins or call-ins, kind of forced shifts due to understaffing. Do you have a sense of what those numbers have looked like for the last month offhand?
Yes, I gave you misinformation last time. I wasn't up on them. I was looking at the wrong chart and said that there weren't none. There weren't none for that week. But on average, they are more to approximately over 20 order-ins a month at least. And out of that, we've had several due to specific operations that occurred within the last, I would say the last, since our last meeting, where we had to call in for staffing on operations that resulted to one of the more serious incidents that occurred in the city of Fitchburg, that being a shooting scene that occurred at a licensed premises, multiple actors, and the work that involved in handling that investigation required call-in and bringing in individuals from other shifts. It was a strain on the resources, but at the same time, it was helpful in what we will discuss, the opportunity for growth within the organization and them to see different things that are, they don't see on a day-to-day basis. So it involved a team effort, but it did require call-ins, order-ins to cover shift, and that included that same investigation led to within the last 24 hours where we had to do that as well.
Just to clarify, just because I just want to make sure I heard it right. So in December, there was 20 order-ins?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I didn't look at the chart, but I knew it was more than 20. I didn't bring that information with me to share with you the exact information. I could tell you it was more than 20.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just kind of keep us up to date on that,
I
that's
will.
just something that we want to keep tabs on. I know it's not on the chart for us to follow, so it's always a question that we have to ask.
Okay.
So I guess to that end, I think maybe it would be helpful, since we are asking on a regular basis, if we could add that as a line item on here, just so that we can track it. I think that would be helpful.
Will do.
Okay. All right, other questions on the staffing report?
One quick question, Chief. I think last meeting you had a possible insight about a retirement that was occurring. Was it the retirement that was just announced?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Next order of business is notice of retirement, which we just were talking about, and an authorization to start a new police lieutenant internal promotion process.
Yes, on January 1, although he told us, notified us verbally, he officially submitted his letter of retirement. That was Lieutenant Don Baumkamp. who had approximately 19 years of service with the city of Fitchburg. He has a total of 30 years of service in law enforcement in the state of Wisconsin. He comes from the Rock County. And a healthy time of, again, 30 years in law enforcement. He'll be retiring at the age of 50. He'll be retiring in good standing, and we'll be seeing him off on his last day, February 1st. And I can talk about the promotional process. I've been working on it with Sarah. I don't know if, Sarah, if you want to give the timeline, or you want me to give the timeline?
Yeah, I'm happy to give the timeline. I think the police lieutenant process is right here. Yeah, absolutely. So we already have the job posting drafted, so we're hoping to launch that tomorrow, and that would be through January 30th. From there, we would give all of the police department employees a chance to provide 360-degree feedback. That would be from January 31st through February 7th. Then we would hold panel interviews on February 8th. This would include community members, other members from law enforcement agencies. On the same day, we would have chief interviews. Actually, we are missing a step. There should be presentations included on the panel interview day of February 8th. So that's a two-part series on the same day. And then we would have chief interviews, and that would include the administrative services manager and the deputy police chief, February 9th. We would bring it back to the PFC on the February 16th meeting, and then we would extend offers on February 17th. So it's kind of a tight timeline, but we have it really kind of well thought out. I included in here the draft job posting. I'm just going to kind of move toward that. To kind of see here how it kind of walks you through the panel interviews and the community panel presentation. So think of February 8th as a two-part series. So you've got the traditional interview, and then afterwards they do the presentation. It will be on a topic that is attached to the application. So they actually have a question that they answer. That essay question, they would then give a presentation on during that day. And then they're welcome to bring audio visual or handouts if they'd like, and then they'll have chief interviews the following day, so Wednesday, February 9th. They would bring then that recommendation, chief would bring the recommendation to the February 16th PFC meeting. But again, this mirrors what we did back in 2019 with the lieutenant process and the deputy police chief process. So all of these components are pretty familiar with us, 360-degree feedback, panel interview, presentation, and it worked out really, really well for us in 2018.
Sarah, do you guys recall how many applicants, how many people were interested in the position in 2019?
Well, in 2019, it was a combined posting, so it was for a deputy police chief and the lieutenant. So it's slightly different. It wasn't just the lieutenant at the time. We probably only had about 5 candidates total. Not sure this round how many we'll have. It's hard to say.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
How many are eligible or could be eligible to be promoted to lieutenant?
We're looking for someone with at least 5 years of progressive law enforcement experience. So, I mean, it really could be anyone that can articulate that 5 years of experience. They have to have an associate's degree, and a bachelor's degree is strongly preferred. But, really someone who is a police officer who maybe has had, other experience either prior to here or even great experience within the department could potentially put in for it and get to the interview stage.
So I have another question regarding the 360-degree feedback. Is this once you have a number of identified people that are interested?
Yep. So we send that 360-degree feedback once the application deadline closes, and we know who those candidates will be. Then we send out an anonymous survey. It's SurveyMonkey. It's about 10 different questions, and the entire department, sworn staff, non-sworn staff, will have an opportunity to weigh in on each of the candidates, from everything from their dedication to their communication, their initiative, interpersonal skills. So it really rates them on a number of different factors. Then the chiefs can look at those survey results following the panel interviews.
Another question, do this survey, the 360 degree, have you ever been in a position to eliminate someone based just on the feedback you get from that survey?
We haven't used it like that in the past. We've always used all of these components together. So the 360 feedback is just a component of it. So if somebody gets a really terrible score on the 360, the chief wouldn't even see it until the chief interviews. So he uses all of those steps in the process to identify the right candidate.
Another question, and I know this is anonymous, but I'm just thinking in terms to help those officers or people that want to go ahead, if there is something negative or maybe not necessarily negative, but something they need to improve on, even if they don't make it, is there any way that you guys give them some feedback as to this, I don't know what to call it, opinions that people have of them, things that they need to improve?
Absolutely. You know, when we did it back in 19, Chief Breckland had noticed any trends, and then he met with each of them to talk about the survey responses. You know, didn't get into specifics. I mean, you really don't know who's answering and what they're saying exactly to kind of go back. We could ask for people to identify themselves on the survey. The only concern would people be open and feel like they can share if
I'm specifically talking about the candidates so that they could prepare for the next time that they might be interested in
Yeah, and that's what Chief Breckland did in 18. So he met with each one of the candidates and shared kind of the trends from their surveys. So they had an opportunity to know kind of what their fellow peers thought of them and what they could work on or what they do really well.
If I can expand on that, Commissioner, I would be very interested in seeing the strengths and weaknesses. We do have a training budget, and because of COVID, training has been limited from bringing groups together. And I'm looking to see where some of these deficiencies are with our staff to identify some of the education or training programs that they can utilize to benefit their weaknesses and things where they can build upon for future promotions if they weren't to get one, or if they do get promoted, still some of the things that they develop from some of this training. So we've been discussing that this month as far as training needs. And one thing we're going to be doing for the entire staff, sworn and civilian, is leadership in police organizations. We're going to ensure that everyone goes through that piece. But after that is now what do you need to better yourself within the organization, and those will be different conventions, seminars, classes, training needs that we can identify to send them. We do have a budget for that. I'm hoping to spend it.
Thank you.
This position isn't only going to be posted internally. It'll be open to external candidates as well, correct?
No, this would be an internal promotion. Many of the police department sworn promotional opportunities are always presented to the internal folks first to apply before we go open competitive. Typically, I think there's been one time that we went open and competitive in the past, and that was quite a few years ago.
So to that end, how will it be, I guess, a couple pointed questions here. So one is, how will it be promoted internally? So how will this be distributed? How will everybody know, just to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity to know? Because I asked that specifically because there's a 10-day window in the hiring, in the position opening. And that seems relatively small. I appreciate you're the HR expert, and you probably know that. As long as the word really does get out, I can see that people would have adequate time to respond. So how will it be put out to folks?
Yep. So we would post this on our city website, but it's on a special part that employees can click on for promotional opportunities. So it's going to be, they still have to apply. They're still using our online application system. Once it goes live tomorrow, then I can email it out to the entire police department. If there's anyone who's like on a leave of absence or who's on a vacation, I mean, we can certainly reach out and let them know that that's out there. But I think that the last employee that we had on a leave of absence, she just returned this week. So I don't know that we have anyone out right now.
Okay, I just would hate for somebody qualified to be missed internally just because it's a short period. So it's just important to make sure that we get it out to everybody.
If I, my part on that, with Lieutenant Baumkant's announcement, and he did it verbally in December, the biggest question that came from the sworn staff, is there going to be an internal process? We let them know that there was, but we didn't give out any particulars until we get the authority to post. So the staff is aware that it's coming. We haven't given much of the details until it's approved, which means they're just waiting for this meeting, and it's going to get out. I don't think there's, especially with our one person who's out on limited duty who came back today, she will know she's working today, and as soon as we're done with this meeting, it's going to be something that's going to be now more vocal, verbal, email, distributed amongst the entire staff. I don't know if there's anyone in particular we'd have to contact that's gone that won't know.
Okay.
Won't know about the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm sure they all know.
What's the policy reason for only having this as an internal opportunity instead of opening it up more broadly to external candidates as well?
So historically, a lot of our police and fire department positions, we've always posted internally. So we want to offer that promotional opportunity within the department. And I don't know if, Chief, you want to speak to kind of the history of why that you see that a lot in different, the public safety field, but we have internal, if we think we have internal interest and qualified people that can apply for it, we like to give them a chance to go for it first before we go open and competitive. But Chief, I don't know if you want to expand on.
I can add, and from experience in working with many jurisdictions, many departments, to go outside first is bad for morale internally. You have to at least identify if you have talent, if you have that ability within the department to promote. If there's opportunity to promote from within, opportunity to mentor, to train and get somebody there, best practice would be to try that first. Lieutenant Don Baumkamp was the first lateral promotion that occurred outside, and that was because nobody applied for that position. So what I'm going to be looking at in this is who all applies. The questions that you're bringing up are the same questions I have. If I only have one person that applies for a lieutenant, is that necessarily the best person? And I'm going to have to weigh out the cost benefits of saying, okay, this is the next person up, you get it. Why? Just because you're the only one that applied? You still have to be qualified for that position. And I'm hoping several people apply so I can kind of understand and see the talent that we have within the organization. We don't know what we're going to get. I'd like to see several applicants to kind of see what the talent is in the department. It's going to be better for morale if we do it internally. But it's up to the staff to show that they're talented enough to do that, and the door's open. So everything that you're raising here are the same things that we're looking for to see if we're going to be able to do that internally or not. And we have to offer it to them.
And if I may inject, just because of the fact that we're going to be talking about fire lieutenant later, there are consistencies between disciplines. It does make a lot of sense to be able to promote from within. It creates vacancies within the organization then, especially as you start getting higher up in the organization, where if somebody who's a lieutenant takes a deputy chief position, for example, that opens up opportunity throughout the organization for promotion and advanced levels of leadership. So it does make sense to try to do that internally first, regardless of discipline.
And one of the questions, if I can add one more, I'm sorry, ma'am. And it's one piece that also, during your questioning for the new chief, is what are some of the things that you're looking for in the next chief who's going to run the organization, is the opportunity for advancement.
Exactly.
So I would close that door by going outside if I don't provide that opportunity for advancement in these stages. We have, it'd be wrong for me not to do it this way.
Just one comment. I totally agree with what the chiefs just mentioned. We are a small department, and if we take away that opportunity for our officers, like you, Chief Morales says, it would increase that low morale that we have been having. Officers put a lot of effort and time into their departments that they work for. And this is one way of recognizing that their effort. So I would strongly, I'm not saying that Tom is advocating for that anyway, but it's one of the things that we have to assist with the retention of the officers in our department also.
Are there more questions or comments about the internal promotional opportunity or the actual announcement?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of what you said.
I said, are there any more questions essentially about the internal promotional opportunity or the announcement itself? So if not, do we have a motion to put forth on the floor?
Well, I move that we authorize the start of the recruitment of police lieutenant. The start of the internal promotional process for police lieutenant.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, guys. All in favor of the motion on the floor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right, thanks, Chief.
Okay.
Next item up is new police officer update.
So we have 3 new police officers that started on different dates due to academies and transition from Arizona to Wisconsin. Our first one is Bradley Stefanski. He's originally from Wisconsin. He joins us as a lateral officer from Tucson, Arizona. He has been an officer for Tucson since 2019, and he will start the field training process as soon as his orientation is complete. He started officially last Friday, and he's been out at our training academy. We're currently going through in-service. So I was able to see him in some scenario-based training. He's shows that he has been, a police officer for a couple of years, and very happy to have him. Very family-oriented. His wife is in education. I don't know if she's obtained a job yet, but their reason for moving from Arizona to here was family purposes. They have 3 young children, and they had no child care in Arizona, so come back to family to help them out with child care and raise a family. Dane County is where most of their family's from, so they'll be able to live, work, and raise a family here in Dane County. Craig Spangler, he's originally from Janesville and served in the Army from 2012 to 2020. He attended college for IT. His most recent work was a security guard in a company in Janesville. He'll be attending Black Hawk Law Enforcement Academy. He started on Monday. Again, he actually started last week at the training academy, spending some hours with the in-service group. Very excited with him. He comes here with a military background, but he was also a sergeant in Special Forces, which brings upon a leadership background. They go through leadership training and when they're at that level. So he's able to bring that. What we're really interested in his IT background. And third is Ramon Christian Claudio Dominguez. Ramon is originally from Madison, attended Madison East High School. He's the youngest of the 3. He graduated from Madison College with an associate's degree in criminal justice. He had most recently been employed as a security guard at the Unity Power, Meriter Hospital. He's going to be attending Madison College Law Enforcement Academy. He started January 10th. He's the youngest of the group, but probably has a work ethic that starts at the age of 14. He's been working as much as he could, taking multiple, up to 3 jobs at a time, He has a significant other, one child, living here in Madison, and very dedicated to working. He's a hard-working individual, and we seen that in reviewing his background at the multiple places that he worked at from the age of 14 to the present.
Thanks for the update on that. Any questions? We're glad to have 3 new police officers, and it sounds like you're happy with the hires, so that's great.
Very excited to work with them.
Yep. Next item is authorization to start a new police officer recruitment.
We have currently 1 vacancy, and seeing the promotion process is going to be occurring, it's going to be like a domino effect. Depending on where the promoted position comes from, is going to create that vacancy. Just for the purposes of this presentation, if a sergeant gets promoted to lieutenant, it's going to leave a vacancy in the sergeant position for somebody from the detective rank or the rank of police officer to apply. If it comes from the detective rank, it's going to allow for somebody from police officer to apply for detective. In that sense, it's a domino effect that creates a vacancy all the way down to police officer. If we're looking at promoting from within and offering this process, we're going to be looking at more. We currently have 1 vacancy. We're going to at least expect 2 vacancies with the processes that occur if they do, if the promotions come from within. And lastly, with the other 6 individuals that are eligible to retire, I don't want to say this, that nobody's really planning it, but one person that said, I'm looking at retiring by the end of 2022. But it's a bad day away from anybody retiring when you're eligible to retire. They can leave any day. So you're looking at potentially 6 additional positions that can be vacant within this next year, which means we have to be prepared to have some type of eligibility list or candidates to be able to recruit and hire before that happens, so that we're not always in the hole.
Based on what Al just said, so this is our great timeline that we have here. So we'll be well ready for them to start in June to send them to the academy. So we do hope to post this tomorrow through February 20th. We'll go through the typical HR redaction of the names. We go through and we have a panel that will score the essay questions that are on the application. And then we're going to be looking at panel interviews the week of March 7th. Then we'll move to the background screening, chief interviews the week of March 14th. So you won't see us come back to you for approval for police officer hires until April 20th. And then we hope to get those conditional offers out and then, have them start in June. So we have a little more time on this recruitment, but hopefully we generate a lot of interest here.
And there's the potential, this is to open up a recruiting process, and there's, based on what you said, Chief, there's a potential to bring in potentially more officers depending upon how those other things fold out. One of the things that we've seen in the past, which I think has been helpful for us to just sort of talk about and even look forward help us to look forward and maybe plan better for the next recruitment processes or for the following ones, is that those panel scorings. So post those chief interviews, when you bring that information to us, I think that would be good for us to see all of those scorings so that we can actually see, so who are the candidates, what was the decision-making process, and maybe even what we can do to improve the process of hiring. And just not necessarily that we're driving that, but we work with HR to develop that process. So I think it would be good for us to see those panel scorings.
Comment?
Yep, go ahead, Rosa.
Yeah, Jeff, in one of our previous meetings, this is something that came up, that we would like to be more involved at the beginning of the process rather than wait, not necessarily driving the process completely, but since we are the ones that are making the final decision of who gets hired, that we have a better understanding of the whole process from beginning to end. And I don't know at which point we would like to have more input, but I'm interested in knowing, in being able to see all the candidates that applied. And I know some of them get cut out of the process because they don't meet the minimum standards. But sometimes they get cut out because of the writing wasn't good or something, whatever. So I don't know, Sarah and the chief, how do you feel about, or at what point we should be more involved? Maybe in this process so we have a better understanding. I myself would like to see all of the candidates that apply, just so I have an idea. Where are they coming from? Where are the limitations that we're having, so that we could plan better?
No, I don't know if this would be something you'd be interested in, Rosa, but maybe, I know you make the final recommendation on who gets to be hired, but that's not until later on in the process. We could potentially have one of you sit in at the application scoring and be part of that process where you can actually go through all of the applications and you're helping to score, and you can then understand how we go about that process to determine who gets to the interview stage. Just a thought. I realize maybe the whole commission would want to be involved, but that would be an option for one of the members.
I guess the other thing, I like that idea for one of us to do that, and while we can't all be involved, that person could then come back with information about what they learned from that process and actually give it back to us so that we can, make better, or help build the process out more effectively, or make suggestions. I guess the other piece is that, Rosa, I would just say that one of the reasons why I specifically asked for the panel results is because I do remember us having very good conversations, particularly in closed session when we were going through those, about sort of what was the decision-making process, and then, what about what was the eliminating factor for these 10 bottom candidates? Those kinds of conversations. It allowed us to ask those questions, and while it's a bit late in the process for that, I still think that that's valuable information for making recommendations moving forward.
I agree.
Sarah, is every application that comes through, is that reviewed by our staff, or is any of it sent through like a ATS system or?
Oh, no. Yeah,
Okay.
no, we score. Yeah, there's a group that will look at every single application. So yeah, we don't use any type of software to screen applicants.
I would happily sit in on that and help review any of those applications if no one else wants to. I would love to be a part of that. And
Okay.
I would bring all the info back as well.
Perfect.
Sounds great, and good recommendation, Rosa. Thanks.
So a related thing I saw just today, in fact, from the great city of Wauwatosa near the Milwaukee area, they, I think, are using some of their federal monies for recruitment purposes for police officers. And I seem to recall seeing that the city of Fitchburg has money coming our way from the federal government. Is that something that has been discussed, and could it be in effect for this 30-day period where the application period is open?
So we haven't discussed utilizing it for police officer recruitment specifically. Now, I don't know what's been talked about as far as maybe recruitment videos or utilizing other, kind of marketing tools to attract new applicants. Chief, have you talked about that at all within your department?
We have not. What was discussed within the department is that Madison, and it's just word of mouth, but they have now incentivized paying for your 60 credits. In law enforcement, you need 60 credits within the first 5 years of employment. You need to get, if you don't have a associate's degree or a bachelor's, within 5 years of employment, you need to get it. So they're covering the cost to get you the associate's degree within those years. That's what I was told, which I anticipate that's going to create an effect within the surrounding jurisdictions to kind of start offering some type of incentive to retain those officers or for, again, to promote it for hiring, recruiting. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to start looking at some incentive.
Are you specifically looking at the one-time expenses from ARPA?
I don't know where Wauwatosa was getting the money, but $7,500 kind of sign-on bonus essentially is, I think, how it was framed, and I assume that's coming from the federal money. I'm not sure which bucket of.
Oh yeah, there is a federal grant, I think, for law enforcement that was put out there for incentivizing law enforcement, but yeah, I don't know if we've addressed that from a public safety aspect.
How many people, Sarah, if you remember, applied for our last recruitment?
If I recall, I think it was about, oh boy, 75 or 80 applicants total. So we're still getting, I mean, this is nothing compared to the hundreds of applicants we would get years ago, but we're still getting applicants, and we are still making some really great hires. We have talked about sign-on bonuses for seasonal employees for this summer, but that's not coming from the ARPA money, and that's something for only about 11 employees because we struggle so bad in the summertime with recruiting. But I mean, Tom, I think that's a great idea that we look into, you know, what potential there is for highlighting recruitment or helping us with recruitment for these police officer positions, because it does get hard. Every recruitment, you just don't know what the numbers are going to be.
What's something to discuss? Because there's a lot of incentive, like the chief mentioned. Educational incentives are really good. And I know Madison has it. Up to, if you have a master's or above, you get almost 22% increase in your salary. So something to look into, I would say.
I know the police department also was in negotiations with their contract. Did anything amount from that? Was there anything significant as far as the schedule change or anything like that that came from that, if that's finished?
Yeah, the contract is finished. So they ratified the contract in December. It was just approved by council last week. So there were quite a lot of changes, quite a few changes. We are going to be looking at a bilingual incentive. There's going to be a focus group that's going to put that together. We incorporated a different pay structure. So basically, if you work you know, in between the hours of 3 p.m. and 11 p.m., you're going to make a higher hourly rate. So basically incorporating that higher shift differential into the hourly rate. We added an after 7-year step. So now if you've been with the Fitchburg PD for 7 years, you're going to see a longevity increase. Numerous other changes to nothing really along the lines of recruitment that I can think of. Chief, if you have anything else to share regarding that, I think that those are the kind of main highlights.
Yeah.
Any schedule changes? I know Fitchburg, what it sounds like, has a different schedule than a lot of other agencies, and I think what I had gathered, most of them enjoy that schedule. Was there any change in that?
No, as a matter of fact, currently it's an MOU. It's the 4 days, 4 days, 10 and I believe it's over 10 hours a day, 4 days, 4 off. Half of the department is on that. The other half is it works their normal 8-hour shift. That was agreed upon before I got here, and I agreed to the MOU to continue it for the next 3 years. It is an incentive. The officers that are on that shift enjoy that, and it is a selling point. Many departments don't do it. It is a staffing. On my end, it's a staffing nightmare. But I agree because I got to learn it. I'm the new guy in here. I have to understand it. They like it, and if they like it and it helps morale and they're showing up for work and they're working the hours, that's fine. So I'll learn it and I'll see what transpires within the next 3 years to say, no, I still can't grasp it, or we're going to continue. But for now, it's going to be occurring for the next 3 years. So we can use that as a selling point.
Yeah, I think that gives them a lot of time off to recoup, and as far as the wellness area, I think a lot of officers need that right now, so good. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you. I'm glad, congratulations on that being completed too, so.
Thank you.
Sarah, is there an experience cap for lateral transfers to the department in the current collective bargaining agreement?
Yeah, typically we don't bring them in higher than the after 3-year step. So, you know, you've got your starting rate, your after 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 10 year. And so typically, you know, if someone has, you know, 5 years of experience, we typically will bring them in at the after 3-year step.
So if a 25-year law enforcement officer wants to come to Fitchburg, we can only offer them 3 years salary or wages.
We haven't had that situation yet. I think that that would be at the discretion of the chief because we just haven't had that yet. I mean, typically the laterals that we have had come in at the after 3-year mark because that's the equivalent experience that they have where they are. If we did have someone that applied that had 20+ years of experience, I would imagine we bring them in at a higher, but I don't want to speak for the chief, but I'm just going off of past practice. We don't necessarily have any stipulation in the contract that states we can't deviate past the after 3 years. I'm pretty positive.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question here. So for the police officer recruitment process, so for the application review, Sheena's going to be part of that. Jeff, you mentioned the panel interviews. What specifically, how do you see us getting involved, or what were you suggesting so that I can write this down here?
I wasn't suggesting necessarily that we get involved, but that we see the results of those.
Okay.
I think that's when we bring the scores to you. So we'll show you
Precisely.
the spreadsheet of all of the different folks and kind of where the cutoff was. And then we can explain why the cutoff was where it was. And then what about those candidates that didn't move on? What was the reasoning?
Yeah,
So,
I think the last process, when we brought in one of the processes, we didn't do that. And I think it was missed. And I think that it's something that's valuable for us.
Okay.
All right, well, given those two things, are there additional questions about authorizing a new police officer recruitment? And if not, do we have a motion on the floor?
Okay, I move that we authorize the new police officer recruitment in 2022.
I'll second.
Okay, hearing a second. All in favor of opening a new police officer recruitment, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Would somebody take us into closed session? That's the next item up.
Okay, I'll do it. Pursuant to section 19.85(1) of the Wisconsin statute, the commission will move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, more specifically, to discuss the performance of a specific police officer.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor of going into closed session, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
and closed session.
Year, and that's predictable based on what last year was. To include our inspections, we have been able to conduct the inspections as according to the Department of Safety and Professional Services, giving us the ability to get into businesses and to speak to code violations, or more preferably, no code violations found. As far as recruitment, consistent to what we've been seeing, we put out a process for paid on premises, paid on call firefighters. We had about 8 applications returned. That doesn't necessarily mean all 8 of them are eligible. That's just indicating the number of applications that we have received so far. We're in the process of reviewing those applications. I don't have information specific to the demographic. I'll be able to share that as we get more information. One of the things that I know that you have interest in is overtime and mandates. And although I'm trying to get that on our sheet as well, I was unable to run that report, and I have a really good excuse. And that excuse is the fact that I have been running the officer in charge car lately. So we've been down a deputy chief of operations. He retired at the end of the month. He was a paid on premises individual. He put in full-time hours on a part-time salary. It's very difficult to find anybody who is willing to do that nowadays. And so as a result, we do have a vacancy, and I've been filling in those areas along with other chief officers, and then our lieutenants have been acting up into that position. So there have been order-ins, I can verify that, and there have been mandates over time already in the first month of the year. I just don't have the specific numbers. So as that becomes available, I think what it's addressing, it's the overall necessity to evaluate what is required in a growing community and how do you staff a fire department in a growing community. And one of the things that we have seen from the Wisconsin Public Policy Forum is the fact that fire departments throughout the state and actually throughout the nation are having one heck of a time recruiting volunteer and paid on premises staff. It's because of the fact that the training that's required for what amounts to a professional occupation requires time away from home, and if they're already putting in full-time hours, it's difficult for them to put in additional full-time hours for something that doesn't necessarily pay their bills. So it has been something that we need to address. In addition to that, what it speaks to is the value of getting out there into the community and recruiting so that our department resembles the community that we serve. And with that, it comes into question, how do you get in front of kids at the appropriate age so that they can start making decisions that gets them in a position to receive the education that's required to become a career member, not just a volunteer or a paid on premises member. So those are things that we're working on right now. It's been something that we've done with our intern program. We're in the middle of that process right now, sending out applications and recruiting for those positions as well. So active process, is still working on trying to figure out what a staffing plan looks like for a growing department, and one that can be funded, not the theoretical placement of firefighters on a piece of paper. It's how can we fund those positions in a municipal budget that has a levy limit. So any questions on that so far as staffing?
I have a question on staffing.
Yes, ma'am.
Just reviewing the staffing report and refresh my memory also. So there's only 5 females. No firefighters are females. 1 intern staff, 3 part-time staff, and 1 support staff. What do the part-time staff, what does that reflect? What do they do?
The part-time staff is our paid on premises, paid on call firefighters. The support staff is somebody that is not a sworn firefighter, but assists in a variety of different either clerical or support functions within the department.
And the intern staff?
Those are recent high school graduates, typically high school graduates that are firefighters and are going through the associate program at Madison College.
Okay, so we have 1 female doing that.
We do.
Okay, and then 3 part-time firefighters, female firefighters.
Yes, ma'am. And actually, our support staff is up to 2 now that we have Kim Miller as our administrative assistant at the fire department.
And these 3 part-time firefighters, female firefighters, are they with other departments, I assume?
Most of them are actually, they come from a variety of different backgrounds. I'm trying to think. One works on an EMS agency as well as our department, both part-time. And then one other still volunteers with her hometown fire department when she's not with us. And the third, I believe, is just with us. So and here's another interesting tidbit. One of the things that we're trying to do with recruitment is to address candidates that we know already exist within Madison College to try to entice them to consider the city of Fitchburg. Another thing that I've done is I've reached out to the University of Wisconsin system, trying to talk to Title IX athletic director about enticing female athletes to consider firefighting. The unfortunate thing is that from a women's athletic standpoint, there's not much in the way of professional sports that they can grow into. And I think there's one thing that's fairly close to an athletic profession is that of being a firefighter. So trying to entice female athletes to consider firefighting as a potential career choice. And that's going to just, that takes active recruitment and just trying to get in front of those who maybe haven't considered it in the past.
Thank you.
Chief, I do have a question. Do you work with Camp Hero over the summer? Do any of our firefighters or staff go and help with Camp Hero?
Yeah, I've had two female and I hate to say female firefighters. I've had 3 or 4 firefighters, 2 of which have been female, who have helped out with that program.
Okay.
And you know what I mean by saying I hate to say female. I just prefer to call everybody firefighter because they're doing the same job.
Right.
But I understand the designation.
And then also just to kind of back up a bit, did you say that the deputy chief retired?
The deputy chief on the paid on premises side, Rich Roth, he retired.
Okay.
He was putting in full-time hours, but he was part-time staff.
Gotcha. You've been very busy.
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm busy, but I'm speaking to the choir. I think everybody's been busy. It's just COVID hasn't helped us the past month, and a number of things that have started our year as far as just getting certain programs and processes started has made us busy, along with our call volume.
A lot of newness as well.
No doubt.
All right, any additional questions on the staffing report? All right, hearing none. Next item up is authorization to start a career fire lieutenant internal promotion process.
So one of the things that I would like to just bring to your attention is actually 6B and 6C are going to run congruently. We're going to run the process for lieutenant, regardless of whether it's career or paid on premises. We have 2 vacancies on the paid on premises side for lieutenant, and we have 3 vacancies on the career side. This does not increase our staff. These are promotions that were identified 4 years ago as being needed within the organization to help out with span of control. But the vacancies do exist, and we are going to run those processes at the same time. Page 16 in your packet, I think it's 1 of 11 actually for the fire department side, addresses the captain and lieutenant paid on POX, paid on call, paid on premise officer promotional process. That's going to be, there's no captain process with this one. It's lieutenant, and it's for both paid on premises and career. The application period is going to be the same. We can start that pretty much immediately. We've had the application set up for a number of years now. The last time we ran this process, it was halted based on funding. And so now we're bringing it back, and we're starting the process over. I would like to keep that application period open till February 6th. That gives them a little bit more time. In your packet, initially we had considered the end of the month, but that really only gives them about week and a half to get the application in. I'd love to give them at least one more week, so that's why I'm requesting the week of February 7th to be able to turn, or excuse me, February 7th would be the date that I'm looking at. I'm reading stuff as I'm talking, and good thing I'm not chewing gum at the same time, because then everything would go to heck here.
Well,
The application period would close on February 6th, 2022. And then the evaluation of those applications would begin on the week of the 7th. Beyond that, we would be looking at oral panel interviews and the chief's interview, which would happen separately the last week of February. And then the recommendation to the PFC would come forward to the group, to this commission in March, at your March meeting. The other items that are in the packet identify the job description, what their minimum qualifications are, along with some of the things that will be included in the application. You'll see that the fire lieutenant, and once again, regardless of whether they're career or paid on premises, they will receive the same supplemental questions as far as some of the things that they have contributed to the department, some of the things that they will be able to bring into the department based on their skill set. And it allows them to sell themselves almost as if we don't know them. This will be an internal process, so it's in their best interest to represent themselves in a written form. That does two things for me. That gives me the ability to evaluate their contributions, but also their ability to provide written communication. In addition to that, there will be a small essay test. I can do an essay test with this group because I don't have a lot of firefighters that would overwhelm us from the ability to correct those tests. And they've already had a study list that's been available at the station that has been posted in the station for at least 4 years since the last time. We have made sure that the published reference is available, and all of the books that have been put on their reading list are available in the fire station. So nothing that they had to buy. The only thing that they have to do in regards to the reading material is they cannot remove it from the station and take it home. It has to have equal access to everybody. Now, if they want to take it home, they know how to get a hold of it because all of the published information, to include the publication date, is available on the reading list. So they can buy it if they want to. Other references include select department policies and procedures, and typically we pick those that have a tendency of being the greatest importance to a company level officer. And then we also take a look at some of the Dane County EMS policies, protocols, and procedures. Another thing that's in your packet is the Qualifications Inventory. That basically allows us to take the information that they've provided on their application and to score it. It's sort of the rubric associated with the application. So those that have more experience or provided more contributions to the department have a tendency of being able to score more points. Also assessed is their seniority on the department, along with any acting officer experience. So if they've acted in the role of lieutenant, they will receive points for that based on the amount of time that they've acted in that role.
And just a question on that. So just to be clear, the rubric that we're talking about as far as the qualifying inventory, that's first round sort of application evaluation.
Yep. Yeah. And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and then there's going to be a panel interview post that.
Right. Panel interview. And then another thing that is offered as part of that panel review is an assessment center. That assessment center will require them to provide a presentation on a topic of my choosing. Everybody will have the same topic, but it's typically something that we're working on anyway in the fire department, and it provides some well thought out suggestions as far as how we move forward on certain initiatives.
Okay.
And then with the written test, because it is essay-based, there is a rubric associated with that to be able to address how they're answering the question and whether it's a good explanation or whether it needs help. So if that's the case, it provides anybody who's scaling that written response, it provides them information so that it can be done consistently. So that actually, I think, covers 8B and 8C. You may have to vote on them separately, but the process is similar.
Okay, are there questions on either, well, on 8C or, I'm sorry, 8B or 8C? Specifically on the process, any of the documentation that's provided, or anything HR would be involved in as well?
I just want to make a comment, and you guys enlighten me a little bit, because I know when you look at police department and fire department, because of their responsibilities are different, we tend to look at the staff a little bit different, even though, I would like a very competent firefighter to come to my house, as well as an EMS person, just like I want a police officer. But in the steps that we have for the police recruitment, in the evaluation of applications or the application period, we ask to be more involved in that. Do you see the same need for us to do this with the fire department? And I just throw it out there. Maybe we don't need to have an answer right now. It's just in order to be fair to both of them.
If that question, is that question to me?
No.
I guess
to
it's
the
to
other
the commissioners.
Commission.
I think that's a very good point, Rosa. I would love to see the applicants, and my question, I had a quick question, is this both of these positions are internal, or the paid on premise, are you gonna go external for those?
No, all of these positions right now are internal.
Okay.
And the only reason they would go external is if we had no interest internally, or minimal interest internally.
So we do have a career firefighter opening coming up. So potentially that would be a good recruitment. It would be entry level, not entry level. It would be similar to police officers in terms of it's a non, management role. So I don't know if that might be an option, is when we do bring the career firefighter to the PFC for approval, maybe that would be a process that the PFC would be interested in.
And Sarah, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but from a transparency standpoint, anytime you wanted to participate in any of these processes, that is not an issue. I would welcome the participation and the feedback. It just provides us with a better process in the future.
Because this is solely you and HR choosing this next person, is that correct?
We'll select a panel that it will be a good cross section of our profession, so we may actually go to the outside and request assistance from neighboring departments. In the past, we have actually utilized certain business leaders to come in and provide comment about the interaction that they have with the candidate. Because of the fact that a lot of our roles involve commitment to the community and interaction in the community, it makes sense to get community input. So we are open to just about anybody sitting on the panel within reason. I mean, we don't want a 7 to 9 person panel, but it makes sense to have a good cross section of those that represent the profession and those that represent the community.
I see that now here, the professional panel. I missed that, so thank you. Yeah, no, that's good for keeping it consistent.
And I guess, reading through it, I saw the consistency actually between the two. And Rosa, to your point, I think that you're spot on in that the two things that we sort of said for the current police recruitment process is that we would like potentially, if one of the commission members wanted to be on that panel, they could be, and Sheena, you said you were going to be. So I would just say that that is true right now. I think, I'm assuming, Sarah, you'd be okay with that if one of us was on that or we participated in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only question might be like if you're part of the interview panel and selecting, because then ultimately you're approving who's going to be hired. So being part of the steps earlier on, I don't think it's an issue. I don't know about being in the interview and then being part of the final approval. That might be the only thing, as long as there's a step in between, which there would be, the chief interview. So that actually, that might be okay, just talking it out.
Okay.
So as long as there's a step in between those recruitment processes, if that makes sense.
And so that was one piece. And then the second one was to actually see all of the candidates, see those scores from the rubrics. I think it would be, certainly we would like to see the final rubric, but it would be nice to see the ones from the initial, particularly since this would be the first time I think the commission is going to be seeing those things from a fire process. From a fire department process, I think it would be good for us to see as many of those as we could, just as part of that. And I take this as really informational and sort of like having us further understand the process and making sure that we're giving input and improving the process. So.
Yeah, and Sarah, even if they're not a part of the panel, if there is concern about conflict, they could still observe, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We can always have people observe. It's just nice when they can, if they're part of a process, that if it's worth their time, if they do have the ability to kind of weigh in and help with the decision. But yeah, observing is always an option.
Okay. So Sheena, you were going to do the police one. Sarah, because Tom stepped away, he needed to leave for the evening. Can you just send that out to the commission for this recruitment process so that one of us has the opportunity to join if we'd like?
Absolutely, will do. I'll send an email
Thanks.
to the commission and we can figure out who would like to do that. Yep.
That sounds good. Any additional questions about the processes?
The only question I have is, you're okay with me working with Sarah on the dates to make sure that it works with HR and the timeline, as long as we can bring it forward in March?
I would think so. Other commission members?
Mm-hmm.
I see shaking of the heads.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If there aren't additional questions, do we have motions on the floor? I think we do probably need to act on both B and C.
Okay. Well, I move that we authorize the fire chief to start the promotional process for the career fire lieutenant and the paid on-premises firefighter? Lieutenant, sorry.
And do we have a second?
A second.
Second, thank you. All in favor of the motion on the floor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And another motion on the second one?
I thought I did it together.
Oh, I'm sorry, you read them together? All right. Sarah, is it okay if we do them together, or do you think that we have to do them separately?
Yep. That's just fine. We can do that. Absolutely.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks, everybody. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Does anybody have any announcements? I just have one, which is happy birthday, Sarah.
Wow, thank you.
For yesterday, I know it's belated by a day, but nevertheless.
29 already?
Yeah, 29 already. So seriously, yeah. So seriously enough, that happy birthday. And then last item is really just adjournment. So motion on the floor to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. All in favor of adjourning? Raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Until next